Okay, so you've brought us the Astrology of Great Sex, Discover Your Lovers and Your Own Deepest Desires. Quite the title.
It is, yeah. And it really dives deep, doesn't it?
It definitely looks like it. Trying to connect astrology and, well, sex. It can feel a bit overwhelming, almost like trying to read, I don't know, cosmic tea leaves.
Uh-huh.
So the plan today is basically to dig into this book, pull out the really juicy bits, the interesting insights about desire, turn-ons, compatibility, all through the lens of the zodiac signs.
And what makes this one stand out, I think, is where the information comes from. It's not just, generic descriptions.
Right.
It's based on surveys from over 1,200 people talking about their actual sex lives. Really personal stuff.
Yeah, you mentioned that. Direct quotes, confessions. It feels much more grounded in experience than just theory.
Exactly. It moves past the usual sun sign traits into what really happens, behind closed doors.
Hmm.
Fantasies, preferences.
And the structure seems super detailed. The author, Stella Lamb, right? She includes a questionnaire.
Yep. A sexual preference questionnaire.
Yeah.
Makes you curious what they asked.
Totally. And then she maps out compatibility for every sign pairing.
Every single one. Aries with Aries, Aries with Taurus, and so on.
Wow.
And get this, she breaks it down even further by gender within the pair.
No way. So, like, Aries woman with Taurus man is different from Aries man with Taurus woman.
That's the idea. It gets incredibly specific about the potential dynamics.
Okay. That is digging deep.
It lets the book explore, what's really going on for each sign, their specific turn-ons, their fantasies, how they feel about different aspects of sex. It's quite a personal look.
So our mission here, essentially, is to be the shortcut. We'll sift through it all, find those surprising facts, those consistent themes about desire and compatibility that the book highlights for the signs. Give everyone those aha moments.
Sounds good. And we should probably mention the book's concept of vanilla sex.
Uh,
It uses that term for, let's say, mainstream stuff, and then deliberately looks at desires that go beyond that. So we might touch on some more unconventional things as we go.
Good context. And before we jump into signs, maybe a quick refresher on the elements. The book uses earth, air, fire, water.
Yeah, good idea. So Earth signs, that's Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn. The book generally links them to being very physical, sensual, tuned into touch, taste, smell, grounded.
Makes sense. And air signs. Gemini, Libra, Aquarius.
Those are often presented as being turned on by the mind. Ideas, conversation, that intellectual spark is key for them.
Okay. Fire signs, Aries, Leo, Sagittarius.
Think energy, passion, drive. The book suggests that translates into enthusiasm and, well, action in their sex lives.
Got it. And finally, water signs. Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces.
Deeply emotional, intuitive. Their sexuality is often really tied up with their feelings and the emotional connection they have with someone.
All right, perfect foundation. Let's dive in. Starting with Aries, the fire sign, sign of action.
Yep, Aries. Known for being assertive, taking charge.
Yeah.
And the book definitely paints that picture in the bedroom, too.
How so?
Well, one thing that really jumps out is that Aries, especially women, apparently feel pretty comfortable initiating sex.
Oh, interesting. So no waiting around necessarily.
Seems not. There's a directness there that fits their general personality.
Yeah.
So if you're with an Aries, maybe don't be shy about making the first move, or appreciate it when they do.
And what about, like, communication during sex?
The book suggests they lean more towards body language than lots of talking in the moment,
Mm-hmm.
but they are open to verbal feedback. They want to know what feels good, just maybe not via a running commentary while it's happening.
Okay, fair enough. And thinking about that vanilla sex idea,
Hmm.
where does Aries land?
They seem to have quite a wide range, actually.
Yeah.
The survey suggests openness to basics like intercourse and oral sex,
Mm-hmm.
but also exploring things like food play ice cubes, hot wax were mentioned, occasional spanking, leather or latex, blindfolds, high heels, costumes, vibrators, even light bondage.
So adventurous, but maybe with some boundaries.
Exactly. Because it also specifically notes things they don't tend to like: chains, paddles, electricity.
Mhm.
So experimental, yes, but maybe not crossing into certain heavier BDSM areas for most.
Right. Aligns with that fiery energy, but maybe not overly submissive.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
And touch is huge for them. They love
Yeah.
being touched and apparently take a lot of pride in their oral sex abilities.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the book even quotes partners raving about their tongue. Pretty direct praise.
Yeah, it is. Any other specific turn-ons mentioned?
Smells come up: cologne on a partner, their natural skin scent, hair, even the smell of the scrotum.
Okay, very specific.
And taste, too. Taste to come is listed as something they might enjoy. It's quite detailed about sensory stuff.
Definitely. What about orgasm for Aries women?
The book suggests it can happen through different kinds of stimulation, often needing clitoral focus, and describes them as capable of orgasming frequently. High responsiveness, potentially.
And favorite positions? Anything stand out?
Woman on top, man on top, doggy style are mentioned, often with an emphasis on deep penetration.
Mm-hmm.
But also, spooning with clitoral stimulation gets a nod. And apparently, you'll probably know if they're enjoying it.
How so? Vocal.
Very vocal, yeah.
Yeah.
Described as anything from purring to screaming.
Okay.
Like-
And after? All that.
After the intensity, they seem to appreciate quiet time, simple activities, a bit of a cool down.
Right. Does it mention anything specific about Aries men?
Yeah, there's an anecdote about a wrestling match
Oh.
that kind of highlights their physicality and maybe a playful dominant submission thing.
Interesting hint. What about affection in public?
For Aries men, the book suggests they're okay with reasonable stuff, holding hands, kissing,
Uh-huh.
but not big on major PDA or groping. Kind of affectionate, but keeps it somewhat reserved publicly.
Gotcha. Any other memorable stories?
There's one about a lifeguard. First date involved getting busy in multiple spots at a country club. Pool table, steam room, the pool itself really paints a picture of that Aries impulsiveness and maybe seeking novelty.
Wow. Okay. Definitely paints a picture. So let's shift from fire to earth. Taurus.
Yes, Taurus. Deeply physical earth sign, very sensual according to the book. Suggests maybe a more grounded, pleasure-focused approach.
And unlike Aries, maybe being quick off the mark, Taurus likes to take their time.
Definitely. The book highlights wanting at least 15 to 30 minutes of foreplay. Really savoring the touch, the build-up.
Mm.
Quickies can be fun sometimes, apparently, but not the usual preference. They want to luxuriate in it.
And I think you mentioned something about a spiritual connection for some.
Yeah, that was interesting. Some Taurians reported feeling that great sex connects to something deeper, spiritual fulfillment. It's not just physical.
Nice. And initiation. Are they comfortable with that?
Generally, yes. Once a relationship is, sexual, they can take the lead.
Okay. What about setting the mood, since they're so sensory?
Crucial. Engaging all the senses. Sights, sounds, smells, tastes. Passionate kissing, massage are big wins. And food.
Ah, the classic Taurus and food link.
Yep, preparing meals, tasting things during intimacy. It all plays a role.
What about specific smells or tastes they like?
Clean scents. A natural, plain and simple man smell, salty skin, and within a committed relationship, comfort with tasting come. Very earthy sensory detail.
And watching versus being watched.
They enjoy watching their partner, definitely.
Ah,
But can be a bit self-conscious about being watched, at least at first. Need that comfort and security.
makes sense. How about the Taurus man's perspective specifically?
The book notes that just the scent of their partner, or even thinking about her, can be a major turn-on.
Wow.
And a desire for frequency comes up some wanting it daily, maybe settling for 5 times a week.
Busy guys.
Seems like it. And they echo the foreplay thing, love long sessions, but also enjoy quickies and teasing. Variety within the sensuality.
How are they described as lovers, generally?
Affectionate. Enjoy giving compliments, gifts, acts of service. So expressing affection both physically and tangibly.
And bodily fluids, secretions.
The book says Taurus men are more likely excited than repulsed by their partner's secretions,
Okay.
and generally comfortable with swallowing. Ties back to that earthy comfort with the physical.
Right. And being watched. You said they enjoy watching.
Hugely. Watching their lover is a big turn-on. And while maybe initially shy about being watched, they tend to grow more comfortable with it over time as trust builds.
Okay, interesting contrast. Let's move to an air sign Gemini. Mental stimulus, right.
Exactly. With Gemini, the focus shifts quite a bit towards ideas, conversation, that mental connection. A witty comment might be as arousing as a touch for them.
So it's not just physical attraction?
Still important, sure, but that mental link is often primary. And session length. They tend to prefer longer ones.
Longer than Taurus.
Maybe not necessarily longer, but different. Like 45 minutes or more, lots of foreplay and variety. Quickies are okay sometimes, but they really like hours with multiple orgasms, exploration.
And initiation. Comfortable.
Generally, yeah.
Mm.
Fits that communicative, curious air sign thing.
Mm.
Touch is also important, but described more as a way to get to know their lover intimately.
Mm.
They enjoy deep kissing and giving oral sex. Though the book notes, Gemini women might not enjoy receiving oral quite as much.
Oh, that's a specific point. Could be a conversation starter, maybe.
Definitely. And their curiosity extends to watching their partner during sex. They usually find that interesting.
but being watched
More
themselves.
mixed feelings there. Depends on their self-esteem at the time, how comfortable they feel.
Right. And Gemini men.
Described as loving all aspects of sex. Hard to choose between oral and tactile stuff, and often called gifted with their hands.
Nice compliment.
Isn't it? And they're vocal, too. Enjoy talking during sex, appreciative moans, that kind of thing. Fits the communication focus.
Any interesting Gemini fantasies mentioned?
Couple, yeah. Things like being a sex slave to multiple women
Whoa.
or secluded getaways featuring erotic massages definitely shows an imaginative, maybe playful side.
For sure. Okay, let's switch elements again. To water Cancer. Emotional, intuitive.
That's the core idea. Deeply responsive emotionally, but maybe less direct verbally. Relying more on body language, subtle cues, so you might need to pay close attention.
Interesting. What else stood out about Cancer?
Their experimental side, actually, which might seem surprising given the sometimes homebody stereotype.
Really? How experimental?
Fondness for using food in bed, especially sweets, chocolate, whipped cream,
Okay.
interest in dominant submission play, bondage, even public sex, spanking, sexy lingerie.
Wow, quite a range. Any limits? Toys.
Less interest in lots of toys, apparently, beyond maybe dildos and vibrators. So adventurous, but maybe focus more on the interaction and sensation than gadgets.
A blend of nurturing and adventurous, then?
Seems like it. Mood is important, too. They like a nice atmosphere, clean, orderly, low lights. But they're also open to spontaneous encounters. So not rigidly needing the perfect setting.
What about favorite activities?
Kissing, intercourse, sometimes oral sex, and a consistent appreciation for breast touching.
And their best skill as a lover?
That nurturing quality, understanding their partner's needs, being intuitive, really focusing on the other person's well-being, emotionally and physically.
Nice. And for Cancer men? Anything specific?
Some view sex as having a spiritual dimension, an exchange of energy, finding ecstasy.
Similar to some Taurians, then?
A little, yeah, but maybe framed more emotionally or energetically here. Initiation-wise, they enjoy taking the lead early on,
Right.
but appreciate their partner initiating more as the relationship develops. A desire for reciprocation.
Makes sense. Location matters.
Seems so. Heightened pleasure near water is mentioned.
Ah, the water sign connection.
Exactly. And open to different places, including secluded outdoors, but maybe less keen on very visible public spots.
Okay, what about porn?
Oh, yeah. The complex relationship described, like love-hate. It's arousing, but feels not quite right. Generally prefer using it solo unless a partner suggests it. And physically, they're very tactile, sensual, love touching, hugging, cuddling, which often leads into sex.
Okay, that paints a rich picture for Cancer. So
Yeah.
we've covered Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer in some detail. The book obviously goes into all the signs. Right?
Oh, absolutely. We've just scratched the surface. There's Leo, loving adoration and drama. Virgo with their meticulous side, but also surprisingly experimental. Libra seeking harmony and beauty.
Scorpio's intensity and power dynamics.
Right. Sagittarius being adventurous and blunt. Capricorn, disciplined but with hidden depths. Aquarius loving intellectual connection. And Pisces, the dreamy romantic. Loads more detail for each.
And you mentioned compatibility snippets, like specific pairs?
Yeah, the book sprinkles those in, like potential initial fireworks between a Taurus man and Virgo woman. Or Gemini woman and Leo man being a possibly great match sexually. It even calls Scorpio and Capricorn a potential perfect pair. Just astrological ideas, of course, but interesting frameworks.
Definitely food for thought. And fantasies must vary wildly across the signs, too.
Hugely. You get everything from, say, a Leo man wanting to tie someone up,
Okay.
to a Capricorn woman imagining spanking, a Gemini woman curious about watching others or group scenarios, Scorpio fantasizing about public sex or dominance, even a Sagittarius with a random rear entry fantasy.
Wow. The book frames these as just safe mental spaces.
Pretty much exploration in the mind, whether they're ever acted on or not.
And communication styles clearly differ, too.
Big time. Aries using body language.
Right.
Virgo men maybe using gestures. Sagittarius just being really direct, you know. It underlines how important talking about needs is, even if the style varies.
That leads into attitudes about commitment, too, I guess.
Yeah.
Monogamy versus casual.
Yeah, the book touches on that. You see differences like maybe an Aries woman being okay with casual sex when single. It's Sagittarius preferring monogamy, but maybe open to discussing options, while a Capricorn man might really value the commitment aspect. Lots of viewpoints.
And finally, that spiritual angle pops up again sometime.
It does. For some, sex is deeply meaningful. An Aries woman feeling spirits mingling with a soulmate, or a Virgo man feeling connected to his partner's essence. Not universal, but definitely present for some signs.
So, wrapping this up, this deep dive into the astrology of great sex, it really lays out a huge spectrum of desires and attitudes, all linked back to sun signs through these surveys.
Absolutely. It's a fascinating look at self-reported preferences,
Hmm.
turn-ons,
Mm,
all through that astrological filter. It gives you a framework, but, everyone's an individual.
definitely. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? Thinking about these perspectives, what clicks with your own experience? Does it make you think differently about your sign or your partner's sign when it comes to intimacy?
Yeah, it's thought-provoking. And like we said, this was just a taste. If folks are intrigued, the book itself obviously goes way deeper into compatibility and specific desires.
True. Maybe the biggest takeaway isn't finding some cosmic rule book for sex,
Right.
but more about, I don't know, finding new ways to think about and maybe even talk about our deepest desires with ourselves and with our partners.
Well said. It certainly leaves you with something to mull over, doesn't it? The interplay of personality, desire,
Yeah.
maybe even the stars.